Welcome to Duwamish Hill Preserve. Today we're going to take you on a walk on this 10.5-acre natural area that is on the site of a former industrial storage yard. It was also a garbage pit, and so we will show you how love and dedication and persistence can restore a site and reconnect it to the past. So in 1999, I got a phone call, and it was the favorite kind of phone call that Forterra is blessed to get any given day, in which somebody says there's an extraordinary place and we'd like your help to preserve it. This site is right in the heart of the industrial complex that supports the greater Seattle area. This is an exquisite place of restoring plants that have not been here for a long time, and also stewarding extraordinary vestiges of natural habitat. Today it is a true urban treasure. So here we are in the native plant gathering garden. This place is intended to be a resource to urban Native Americans to be able to gather and cultivate traditional plants and resources that are not easily available in our cities and towns. Behind me you see the kind of industrial uses that are common on the landscape around us and give you a sense of what this site looked like and how it was assumed to be destined for future development. And to be in this spot surrounded by all the noise and the activity it's really quite extraordinary. So just like this is a hidden jewel, throughout the site you'll find hidden gems. Where we are here is the cycle of the seasons. The story here talks about the changing of the seasons, the different things that occur at different moments in the year that are important from an indigenous practice standpoint and an indigenous understanding of our place in the world and our connection and relationship to the world. We take quite seriously that we are on indigenous ground, that we need to respect the living culture of the people who were the first people in this country and in this landscape. And at the end of this video, we'll share with you the story of North Wind and South Wind, which took place in this landscape. So this property has a lot of topography, but you'll notice that we have a paved slope trail here. The kids who advocated for the protection of this site wanted this site to be accessible to classmates who utilize wheelchairs. And so they advocated for making sure that at least part of the site was on the level and that the first tier of the hill was truly accessible. And in thinking about accessibility, utilizing interpretive imagery that visually represents the history and the cultural significance of this place was part of the intention as you visit the site and enjoy the rest stops, thinking about how we invite people in to these spaces and reconnect ourselves to each other and to the landscape around us. So when the neighbors brought me to this site, to come around the corner and find this beautiful array of licorice ferns and flowering spring plants and a historic neighborhood that, talks about our relationship with the landscape. This hill was known as Poverty Hill because during the Great Depression, people settled up here because it was land that was available to live on. Our relationship with this property and this place has changed over time. And you can see our history absolutely written on the landscape. Forterra envisions a world in which people and nature can thrive together. And this site really epitomizes an idea of reweaving our relationships and reconnecting the natural world with our communities. It's a site that has been through a lot of trauma, but it's survived and it's thrived. And it's just a treasure. And so many of our neighborhoods have hidden treasures like this. If you just pause and take a little look around the corner and see what might surprise you with curiosity. So I invite you to come visit, and I hope to see you out here. It's one of my favorite places when I need just a little dose of nature and regrounding. So please go to forterra.org and learn more about how you can get involved in stewarding land for good.
North Wind's Fishing Weir, a Duwamish story. A long time ago, the people say, there were two villages on either side of the Duwamish River. On the north side was North Wind's village, and on the south side was the village of South Wind. Both of these men fell in love with the same young woman and asked her to marry them. After a time, she chose South Wind, which angered North Wind. And then she married him and moved into his village, and after a time gave birth to a child, a baby boy. This enraged North Wind, and he ordered his ice people to cross the river and attack South Wind's village and to kill everyone. Kill everyone except for the young woman and her child. And so it was done. The ice people crossed the river, and they attacked South Wind's village and killed everyone, save the young woman and her child. And unbeknownst to them, the grandmother of the child, who escaped by climbing a hill nearby to hide. North Wind said to the young woman, "I will raise your son as my own. I will raise him as my own child if you promise to do the following. First, never tell the child who his real father is. And second, never tell him what I did to his father." For the sake of her child, the young woman agreed, and so the baby was raised as the son of North Wind. The ice people turned this into a land of cold and ice and snow and ice everywhere, like a long winter that would not leave. They built an ice dam across the river, blocking the river and blocking the salmon from returning upriver. The people who lived upriver had a very hard time with the cold and no food, and they would come down to the dam and try to fish, but they would be chased away by the ice people. Some came down to the dam to try to take it down, but they were chased away by the ice people. And so, this winter lasted a long, long time. The boy grew into a young man very quickly, and he was now called Stormwind, and some say he looked like his father. He would go out hunting every day, as young men were to do, to take care of their people, to bring back food to their people. And every day before he left to hunt, people would say to him, "You may go anywhere you want to hunt. You may go anywhere you want in this land, but never go up that hill over there." And they would point to a hill across the river. They would say, "You may go anywhere but that hill." And so, like a good son, he would obey their words. But after a while, he decided to go up that hill. What was up there they wanted to keep from him? And so he went to the top of the hill, and there he found a pitiful little house made of boards and sticks, and from it he saw wisps of smoke. He went to the house and looked in and saw an old woman covered in rags, her face covered in white streaks and ice, and by her was a pitiful little grass fire, hardly big enough to give any heat at all. He introduced himself to her and said hello. She looked at him and said, "Hello, my grandson." And he said, "What do you mean? You're not my grandmother. My grandmother lives in the village below." And the old woman explained, "No, I am your grandmother. I am the mother of South Wind, who is your real father." And then she explained the whole story to him of how North Wind and the ice people killed South Wind and his people, and the man who was raising him was not his father. South Wind was his father. She explained that she could not leave this hill, and so North Wind sent crows and ravens to fly around her house, and their droppings were the white streaks on her face, and the ice that covered her face was the frozen tears, because she had cried every day for the loss of her people. The young man went and got wood to build a good fire for her, and then he took water and gently washed her face, removing the ice and the white streaks. He said that he would get revenge upon North Wind. He would attack him and fight him. But the grandmother said, "No, you're too young. You're not strong enough yet. You can't defeat him. You must become stronger. And when you become stronger and begin to fight him, let me know. I have powers that I can use to help you." And so the young man went to become stronger so he could fight North Wind. He became so strong, he would pull trees out of the ground by their roots, and he would throw the trees into the river. These trees would float down and they would crash into the ice dam. The ice people became frightened because enough trees against the dam might cause it to break, and so they went into the water and tried to remove these logs, but the logs were too heavy. They could not budge them at all, no matter how many tried. The young man would watch, and then he walked up to the logs in the river, and putting one foot under a log, he would flip it out of the water, and then he would do it to another and another. This was how strong he was now. Now, they say, he was exactly like his father, Southwind. Northwind heard of this display of strength, and he was frightened. Perhaps the young man knew the truth, who his real father was, and what he had done to his father. And so he sent the young man's sister to talk with him. She was wearing a beautiful ice necklace, and she walked into the house and said, "I want to speak of our father." The young man said, "I don't want to hear anything about him." And he blew his warm breath upon her, melting her ice jewelry. And now the young man was strong enough, and he began to fight Northwind. Northwind and the son of Southwind were fighting now. They were hitting each other, wrestling, knocking each other down. The grandmother heard of the battle below, and to help the young man in his fight, she took out 3 baskets. She was a basket maker. This was her power. She had one basket that had a fine and tight weave. Into it she put water and sprinkled the water across the land. It caused a fine and misty rain that began to thaw and melt the ice and snow. The second basket had a fine weave, and she put water in it and sprinkled it across the land, and it began to melt the ice and the snow. And then the third basket had a coarse weave. She put water into it, shook it across the land, and a heavy storm rain appeared and washed away all of the ice and snow. It even broke the ice dam. The son of Southwind defeated Northwind. He knocked him down for the last time. Northwind knew he was defeated, and he got up to leave. He began to walk slowly towards the north. But the young man said, "Wait, I won, but I will not interfere with your right to visit your friends and family. You may return every November to visit them. But when I appear in April, you must leave again." And so the young man established the cycle of the winds. Northwind appears in November and brings cold and ice and snow. Southwind appears in April and brings warm clouds and rain. And so this is the cycle of the winds. This story explains how Northwind brings winter and Southwind brings spring. And that is all.